What's up, internet? My name's Ori. Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. You like this video, hit that like button, hit that notification bell. You'll never miss a video. You'll never miss a stream. Today, we're doing a recap of episode number 7 for season 43 of Survivor. We kind of catch up with the aftermath of last week's tribal, where Ellie was voted out. Janine kind of soaking in the reality of the situation, feeling like she's definitely on the bottom. Noelle kind of pulls her over and she's like, look, this is okay, right? Like, I've been in your spot, like, this is good for your game. And then there's kind of a montage of everybody telling her, like, this is good for your game. Yes, losing your most trusted ally is good in this game. Now, don't get me wrong, maybe she can overcome this, get really far in the game, but like, it would have been easier for her if Ellie was there. There's no question about that. So we move on from that. And it seems like they going to kind of stick with these little bit of a weird tribal lines, right? Where you kind of want to work with your old tribe. And Owen's kind of talking about working with, the former Baka, and they were thinking about keeping it the Baka 5, right? There were 5 of them in the game. We could do this. We could stick together. And he's not confident in working with Gabler anymore. He's like, if he does that to her, what would stop him from turning on me? And he's got a good point. He's got a really good point, right? Gabler is a wild card. What does he call himself later in the episode? Ala Gabler came up out of the water and now he wants to go back under the water and kind of hide. So I understand Owen's point there. You don't necessarily want to be working with the wild card too much, but we'll see how that goes. We'll see how this goes, because the next big thing that happens is the Survivor tradition. They get their flag, they're going to paint and decorate it. There's going to be a good time, but then there's a little twist added to it. So this immunity challenge coming up is going to be competed with pairs, at least initially. And not only that, they now have to decide who they're going to pair up with. And it was really awkward because they're like, who wants to say who's going to pair with who? And someone was like, who wants to pair with me? I think that was Jesse. He's like, anybody want to be my partner? So it was kind of awkward. It was weird. Eventually they go, like, why don't we draw rocks? So they draw rocks, and the pairs end up being, I actually have them up here with their partner. So you have Sammy and Noelle, you have Cody and Dwight, Carla and Cassidy, James and Ryan, Gabler and Owen, and Jesse and Janine. So those were the pairs going into this immunity challenge. It was kind of like a stage thing too. So the pairs were running together, and then there would be like separate stages. People would get eliminated along the way. The first stage, they had to crawl through this like twisted, muddy net tube to get from one side to the other. And it was a mess, a real mess. The first 4 pairs who got through this would move on. James and Ryan, they kind of crush it, taking an early lead. Carla and Cassidy, like, you go, girls. Like, they really surprised me. Ended up kind of in second there. Noelle, like, mid-challenge, took off her leg trying to do everything she could to get through this tangled net, but she really was struggling with it. I think the real key, they were trying to, like, twist it with their hands, but I think the real key was just grab it and roll and just keep on rolling, and then eventually it would untangle. But yeah, it was definitely not easy. Wasn't enough even taking off her leg. Noelle and Sammy didn't make it on to the next stage, and Jesse and Janine, they didn't either. Janine wasn't able to get past the nets as well. So you have Dwight and Cody, Gabler and Owen, Cassidy and Carla, and Ryan and James moving on to the second stage, which was kind of that classic, like, build a bridge across using 3 planks of wood. They had to dig them out first in the last part as well, kind of to finish off that challenge. So Dwight and Cody, they move on first. Gabler and Owen, they get through pretty quickly as well. Carla, I must have like looked away just at the wrong second, because when I looked back, it looked like she was being put through a table by the Dudley boys. Like, There was wood got flying everywhere. She must have just like tripped back. I had to go back and watch it. She falls backwards. It goes flying up in the air. That was a good fall. There was a net. There was a net underneath. And she's okay. She's okay. But that was a nasty little fall as she fell. That moves on to the third and final part of the immunity challenge, which will be individual. So the teams that moved on, they're now all going for individual immunity on their own, and it's an endurance, right? Kind of hold up the bucket with the rod that spins. Dwight did pretty well, but he went down fairly early. Owen lasted much longer. And then it came down to Gabler and Cody. Gabler was using like a lot of different, inspirations to kind of keep him going, doing well during it. And some of them were better than others. Like some of them were, about like veterans, people who he's been in the operating room with and stuff like that. Others were like, oh, this one's for Alaska and this one's for my dog. So some were a little bit more inspirational than others. Impressive showing from the two of them. Jeff informs them that this is the longest this challenge has ever gone on, that they've ever had it on Survivor. So they really did a great job, the two of them. And then Cody finally drops. Cody drops. Gabler wins immunity, the first individual immunity of the season. The guy who like Janine and Ellie were saying was, wasting away on day 2. He ends up winning the first individual immunity. And that takes us back to Tribe, because like what's gonna happen now, right? Because this is the first real test, right? Because like the last tribal, half of them were all safe. Like we weren't even 100% sure if Gabler's idol was still active. I'm pretty sure it wasn't, because he would have had the chance to use it. So that technically means it's tribal, but yeah, whatever. This is like the first like real one, right? This is where you really can see what's going on, because if you're immune, like you can kind of sit back, let everybody else do the talking, right? If you're not, this is where things can get a little shaky. So it seemed like they were going to try and stick with, the whole Baka Vessi working together thing, right? Like they had helped them against Coco in one of the challenges before. So it seemed like, hey, like if we stick together, we got the numbers. It's just 4 of those Cocos. We can see you later, right? All 4 of them. And then we're good, right? Just slide to the end, have it be Baka versus Vessi. Easy and done. And they think like, all right, so who of Coco would we want to go first? They kind of come down to it's going to be either James or Ryan, and kind of they settle on James. And here's where things get crazy, because then over at the well, oh, well, actually, you know what? Even before they went to the well, no, did this happen first? Yeah, no, I think the well happened first before Jesse even decided he wanted to flip. Because the well, James finds a note sitting in the well with Dwight, Owen, and Sammy. And it says that there's an advantage hidden under the shelter. And they all decide like, yeah, you know what, let's wait, let's like after tribal, we'll go for it. And everyone's like, yeah, sure. James just runs over and grabs it. Like I don't think anybody actually saw him take it, because it did say in the clue like you can't be caught. Which is kind of weird, because if so many people know and then they're still gonna know anyway, like whatever. you've got the power, and it ends up being the knowledge is power advantage that Gio had, that he was voted out with. So they really are trying to get that in the game. He ends up telling people, but also it doesn't necessarily even matter because everybody was there. Dwight ended up telling everybody about it, and this actually leads to some really interesting things that happen, because Jesse, he wants to flip the vote. He wants to get Noelle out, and he wants to work with Carla. I guess he knows that Carla and James are kind of close. Maybe he feels like he can build her trust more, but if James is gone, it seems like he could build his trust that way. I'm assuming he just wants to work with both of them really more than anything else, and wants to get rid of Noelle. This is stuff that goes back to, the early days when Vesey was having to go to tribal kind of every week, because also he brings this idea to Carla, wants to work with her. But then when he goes to Cody, Cody's like, you know what, though? I'm kind of thinking Dwight. And there was some, differences of opinion there with Cody and Dwight. And Jesse and Dwight had that whole like marriage thing that was going on. So Vesey was very messy earlier in the season. And it seems like that's coming out. So they now know that James probably has that advantage. I don't know if anybody like went and like looked under the shelter to like confirm it, but they're all like pretty sure he has the advantage. They don't know it's the knowledge is power, but they're just kind of assuming that it was. They're like, Geo had it, might probably, right? So to counteract this, just in case he does have it, they decided to do this little like shell game situation. And to help you out to follow along, because this is actually very critical to how the rest of the episode goes, I'm going to try and update this live here on our board. So Cody gave his idol to Jesse. And you know what? That seems like it's a fairly, good little counter, right? Like just in case. And that's the one too that made me think like, oh, you know what? Like maybe they don't trust James and maybe they do want to send James, because why would Cody give his idol to Jesse? Because if they're not voting to take out James, like why would he even use it, right? Like if they're filling in James on the whole situation and how they're gonna vote, like why would he even think that was necessary? So that one kind of made me like really worried that it actually will be James who is going to be voted out tonight. So that was the step one of the shell game. Noelle then gave her steal a vote to Owen, because Cody and Jesse, they kind of weren't really involved in this little plan that they were setting up, because one of the things they wanted to do was not only spread the advantages around, they wanted to also do it so that it was across tribe, right? So Noelle giving it to Owen, that's less likely that James would think, like, who would Noelle give it to? Probably Dwight or maybe Jesse or Cody, right? Like more likely she would give it to one of them. Which actually, now that I'm thinking about it too, like what they end up doing here, if I'm James, like I totally would have asked Dwight if he had an advantage. Like if I thought they were trying to do a bluff and I needed to use it, I would ask Dwight. So it's really weird here because Janine ends up giving her idol to Dwight to hold for tribal, just to keep it safe from any potential things that James might try and do. And I'm having the hardest time grabbing this little thing to move it. There we go. That work? There we go. So that's how it was going into tribal. And this is important because of what ends up happening at tribal. So we get the tribal and everybody seems really confident in how they think everything's going to go down. In fact, so confident, they brought back the confidence scale from earlier in the season. Like, how confident are you from 1 to 10? Most people were like at 7s and aboves. They were feeling good, right? Everybody was doing good. And then it comes down to the vote. What's it going to end up being? Because if Cody and Jesse stick with the Baka Vesey, it's going to probably be James. James doesn't use his advantage, right? Jeff does his whole, like, if you have an advantage, now would be the time to do so, which apparently also is a deadline thing. We'll talk about that in just a second. So, no advantages were played. Nobody did anything tricky. It's coming down to the votes. Did Cody and Jesse go with James, or did they go with everybody else? And did they decide not to do that? So what's it come down to? 5 votes went on Ryan and James, but Dwight gets 7. So even Sammy was in on it. I'm not sure whether even Gabler was in on it, because Gabler actually ended up voting for James. There were 4 votes for James: Gabler, Owen, Janine, and Noelle. So Sammy actually ended up voting with Cody and Jesse and flipping over to the Coco side. I don't know 100% like who's with who, like what's going on, but it seems interesting here. Now, here's what you might realize already. Dwight had Janine's idol. So if Dwight's gone, what happens to Janine's idol? Well, that's the question, right? Now, we have seen, at least I have seen, because I actually watched a bunch of these. I think they're on Paramount Plus. If you have Paramount Plus, you can watch them on there. There's other ways. There's other ways. There's other ways you can watch it. But Survivor Australia. Now, I actually highly recommend those seasons. They're really quite good. They did kind of like a, I don't want to say all-stars. I forget what they called them. Champions, I think is what they called them, but they were more just like celebrities almost, like Australian celebrities. Like one was like a famous athlete, one was like a model. So they were on there, but it ends up being like really good. I definitely recommend watching those ones because they kind of did like a reboot. I think those are like the first ones you start with. What the point is, on that show, there was a guy who was voted out who had an idol. And when he was voted out, he handed it off to someone else, like as they're like hugging, like saying like, you guys got me. And he's hugging everybody to leave. He gives an idol and passes it off. That was always kind of like a thing. Like, is that okay to do? Can you do that? Like, when is an idol dead? Is it dead when, they're officially voted out? Can you pass it while the votes are being read? And what's funny is we do see Janine here. Here's Dwight. Here's Janine. And, she's realizing here that Dwight is about to be voted out of the game. And, what's her hand doing? Oh, yeah, can you give me that back? Like, hey, I know you're about to get voted out here, but can you just give me my idol? It's just like, hey, buddy, my idol, please. And he doesn't give her it. He does not give her the idol. Now the question is that idol just burned? Could he have given her the idol? There was a thing that I saw just before recording that Jeff actually gave an interview where he said, when I say the words, if you have an idol or an advantage and you want to play it, now's the time to do so. That is like a locking. Whatever happened after that can't be changed. So as soon as that happened, Dwight had that idol. And as soon as they read the votes, as soon as they started reading, that idol was done and had no more power. So it's gone. That is an idol that is going to be seeing you later. And now Janine not only lost her best ally, she loses an alliance member, and now she lost her idol. That is some serious bad stuff for poor Janine there. But also maybe a little bit of her fault. Maybe a little bit of her fault. Because again, now that I'm thinking about it, if I was James and I was going to use it, yes, I would know that Janine had it because now in retrospect, Sammy was in on the vote as well. Sammy knows about Janine's idol. You would ask Dwight. Dwight would probably be the most likely. Or you would ask Owen. That would be the second most likely person to ask. But considering the only other two options probably would have been Cody or Jesse, it would have been funny if Sammy convinced them to give it to himself. Like, yeah, give me the idol. He's never going to suspect that I have the idol. Okay, James, ask me about the idol. But I actually have a theory. I haven't added it to James either, that he has the advantage. I'll do that for next week. I have a theory on how James is going to use the knowledge as power. And it's a little funny because I don't think it's going to get used right away. I think it's going to be a little bit later. And I think he's going to take Cody's hat. Because Carla knows about Cody's idol when Noelle was telling the story about how Cody made the hat and the beads, Carla picked up on that because she has the same bracelet idol. So she knows that Cody has an idol. And her best partner in this game is James. It's her closest ally. She can just tell James, hey, ask Cody if he has an idol when he's wearing that hat. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I have a strong feeling that James is going to steal that hat. And Cody's going to think no one has a clue. Now, when it's going to happen, will it be when he's trying to blindside Cody? Will he be doing it when he feels like he's actually in danger of going? We'll see. But that would be amazing. If he just says, hey, Cody, do you have an idol? And Cody has to say, yeah, take off the hat, give it over to James. That would be amazing. I want to see it so bad now. But what did you guys think of the episode? I really liked it. I thought it was a really good one. I don't know how I feel about the pairs. I don't really think I mentioned it much when we were talking about it. There was a lot that you could game with it. It ended up being rocks, right? So like you couldn't really pick your partner necessarily, but they gave them the option to. And if they did pick their partner, that could be a really good way for you to tank someone's game. If you, for example, are someone, let's say like Sammy, who knew there's no chance of you going home. Sammy really, should never say no chance because there's always a chance, but have a really good idea that you're probably not going to be the one going because you have some good relationships and you're in a good spot in the game. You could throw this and cost Noelle the chance at the immunity, right? On the other side, probably a better example of what could have happened was Owen. If Owen decided that he didn't want Gabler to win immunity because they were going to vote him out, he could have just thrown the competition. And that ruins the immunity chance for the other person. Which I don't know how I feel about it. But it was definitely something that was interesting. But overall, yeah, just the complete mess. I love that they were like, oh, it's going to be James. And then, well, of course, everything's going to do a complete 180 here and get completely messy as the advantage comes into play, the idol swappings all over. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out going forward in next week. So let me know in those comments down below what you thought of the episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and hit that subscribe button if you are new here. Also, you can check out all my socials down in the links down below in the pinned comment. There's links for my Twitter, my Twitch, which I do have to get back on the Twitch. I plan on doing it this weekend. I'm coming back. I'm going to do some streams. Hopefully we'll get some streams going, get back on a good schedule over there. You can also check out the Discord where you can join the conversation and everything else. Click what you want, ignore what you want. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.